Hello, everyone. Today we're going to talk about the campaign The Autocomplete Truth, which is a campaign produced in the United Arab Emirates by UN Women. A little bit about UN Women is that it's a United Nations entity created in 2010 dedicated to gender equality and the empowerment of women. The mission of UN Women is to develop and uphold standards and create an environment in which every woman and girl can exercise her human rights and live up to her full potential. The vision of UN Women is to make full use of technology and strengthen partnerships with people to make greater progress in key priority areas. The values of the UN as a whole are integrity, accountability, transparency, and respect, and additional values that UN Women have adopted are partnership, innovation, technology, and learning. A little bit more about UN Women is that it supports the UN member states as they set global standards for achieving gender equality, and it works with governments and civil societies to design laws, policies, programs, and services needed to ensure that the standards are effectively implemented and truly benefit women and girls worldwide. It also works globally to make the vision of the Sustainable Development Goals, which is a blueprint to achieve better and more sustainable future for all and addresses global challenges such as poverty, inequality, environmental degradation, peace, and justice, a reality for women and girls. It also stands behind women's equal participation in all aspects of life. The problem faced by UN Women is that women worldwide are still being prosecuted, undermined, and denied basic human rights simply because of their gender. The opportunity is to dismantle these negative stereotypes by using these arguments against themselves to illustrate all that women are capable. The system of the UAE is a constitutional federation. There are no political parties in the UAE, and votes are based on the individual candidates. The UAE is made up of 7 emirates, which are each ruled by a single monarch. These 7 rulers make up the Federal Supreme Council, which is the highest constitutional body and establishes general policies and sanctions federal legislation. The council meets every 5 years to either confirm the current president or elect a new one. They also elect the vice president. The current president of the UAE is Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan, who has been in power since 2004 following the previous president, his father's death. There is also the Federal National Council, which has 40 seats, 20 of which are appointed by the Emirates rulers, and the other 20 are elected to 4-year terms. The legal system in the UAE is based on a dual system of Sharia law and civil courts. Judges are appointed by the president. The UAE has an open market economy. Their economy is the 18th freest in the 2020 index with an economic freedom score of 76.2. They are ranked first among 14 countries in the Middle East and North Africa region, with an economy that's been slowly climbing the ranks of the most free since 2013. This is due to their competitive financial sector, which offers many diversified services. While state-owned banks have a strong presence in the UAE, foreign banks still have over 100 branches nationwide. The UAE is rated 21 out of 180 countries on the Corruption Perceptions Index scale, with 1 being the least corrupt and 180 being the most. The UAE received a CPI score of 71 out of 100 in 2019. This makes the UAE the least corrupt nation in the Middle East. They boast that this impressive score is due to good and efficient management of public finances, improved public procurement, and better access to public services and infrastructure. The UAE has a zero-tolerance policy on corruption and has given power to bodies such as the Abu Dhabi Accountability Authority and Federal Audit Department in Dubai to root out corruption in the public sector. The UAE ranks quite low on the 2020 World Press Freedom Index, ranking 131st out of 180 countries. They have a high literacy rate for those 15 plus years old, especially those between the ages of 15 and 24, but the literacy rate drops off for those over 65. The UAE has strict laws against criticism of the regime and media, and while there is a constitutional right to free speech, a 1980 law on printed publications allows authorities to censor local and foreign publications for criticizing the UAE, and a cybercrime law, which was introduced in 2012, allows for stern punishments that range from a fine up to a life sentence for criticizing senior officials, arguing for political reform, organizing unlicensed demonstrations, and more. The UAE has seen the largest shift from traditional to digital media than any other country in recent years. Emiratis are spending over twice as long on digital media than traditional media. Emiratis spend on average 2 hours and 51 minutes per day consuming traditional media, mainly television. Global Web Global Web Index estimates that 93% of Emiratis have access and make use of the internet. There were 1,300,000 internet users in the UAE in 2018. Most of the time spent online is spent on social media. Regardless of the internet penetration, the UAE still received a Freedom on the Net score of 28 out of 100 in 2019 due to obstacles to access, limits on content, and violations of users' rights. Let's talk a little bit about Hofstede's cultural dimensions and how they relate to the UAE. Firstly, power distance. The UAE has a score of 90 in the power distance category, meaning that there is a hierarchical order where everyone has their place and doesn't require justification. This stems from the monarch-style ruling system. Next, the UAE has a score of 25 in the individualism category, meaning that it is a collectivist society where loyalty is highly valued. In the UAE, there are close ties to extended family. The UAE has a score of 50 in the masculinity category, meaning that it is neither masculine or feminine. There is a balance of success and quality of life. There is a high preference to avoid uncertainty in the UAE, as shown by the score of 80 in the uncertainty avoidance category. The UAE has strict rules and regulations to keep standards and traditions in place. Going now into the SWOT analysis. The strengths of the campaign are that UN Women's focus on empowering women. There is a multilateral support for UN Women, and Google is a universally recognized and used search engine. The weaknesses of the campaign are that there is a lack of internet access for those most in need of the message of the campaign. The campaign is in English, while the official language of the UAE is Arabic, and there is high uncertainty avoidance score in the UAE. Some opportunities of the campaign are the UAE's large switch from traditional to online media, and that the UAE is second best performer in closing the gender gap in the Middle East North Africa region. Threats of the campaign are the UAE blocking internet access, and that estimates that it will take 150 years to close the gender gap in the MENA region.
Primary publics for the Autocomplete Truth campaign is women in the United Arab Emirates and surrounding regions. The secondary publics for the Autocomplete Truth campaign is any other woman who believes in gender equality and that discrimination against women is still prevalent in today's society. The target audience for the Autocomplete Truth campaign was women in the United Arab Emirates who felt that even with societal advancements and gender bias still exists. The campaign video shows monumental moments for women, primarily in the US and the UAE throughout history. By having this, the campaign is showing that women have made their own mark in history and should continue to do so. The campaign was targeted for these women, but it actually impacted the way everyone was looking at gender bias worldwide. With 224 million Twitter impressions, companies were sharing their own spin-off campaigns with the hashtag #WomenShould. The photograph on the right is an example of a different company using the hashtag and using their own example photo of the Women Should movement. The demographics for this campaign consisted of women in the UAE. There are 3.07 million women in the UAE, which is only 27.8% of UAE population. There is no set age for this campaign, so we chose the ages of 18 through 60, which consists of the ages of the women in this campaign video. For psychographics, we chose women who believe in equal gender roles and women who feel pressure from society to play a certain role.
Hello, my name is Ariana Meekins, and I will be doing the campaign overview for the Autocomplete Truth. We're going to start by watching the campaign video.
Amelia Earhart and her epic soul flight from America to Ireland.
Historic moment, Steve. This Saudi Arabian women.
The theme of this campaign is that sexism is still part of popular culture, especially on the internet, and the tagline is #WomenShould. The key message is that a widespread prevalence of sexism and discrimination against women is revealed by looking at Google search autocomplete entries. These negative sentiments against women range from stereotypes to outright denial of basic human rights. The supporting messages of this campaign is that the progress that women have made in general towards gender equality, while great, still has a long way to go. The fact that a constructive dialogue about discrimination needs to take place, and that the internet exposes this kind of sexism, but also serves as a medium to help combat it through social justice efforts. The goal of this campaign is to confirm the urgent need to continue making the case for women's rights, empowerment, and equality. The output objectives were to create a video and a series of ads to generate views for the campaign with target audience members, and to start a conversation on Twitter and increase the use of the hashtag #WomenShould. The impact objectives informational was to increase global awareness of the prevalence of widespread gender inequality. Attitudinal is to change the common perception of what women should be doing. And behavioral is to increase the use of the hashtag #WomenShould and start a conversation about women's rights. Here are some examples of the implementation ads Memmac Ogilvy Mather Dubai had for the Autocomplete Truth campaign. The strategies used in this campaign were to use social media to engage audiences and to use real autocomplete entries for Women Should. The tactics were to produce a promotional video, create a series of ads for billboards and print media, target specific individuals to encourage the use of the hashtag #WomenShould on social media to spread the campaign, and to create a follow-up promotional video sharing press mentions to extend the reach of the campaign. The timetable for this campaign was that the autocomplete entries were found in March 2013. The campaign was listed on Memmac Ogilvy Dubai's website on October 2013. It was listed on UN Women's website on October 2013. The promotional video was released in November 2013. The follow-up video was released on YouTube in May of 2014. The estimated end date of the campaign is around December 2014, and the awards season ranged from 2013 to 2014.
Analysis of web page. Initially, the campaign was disseminated through online and writing press, but quickly moved to social networks, generating an online debate of surprisingly high proportions. The campaign caused 1.2 billion impressions worldwide and generated more than 2,024 million comments on Twitter under the hashtag #WomenShould. As published by the advertising agency itself, this was one of the main objectives, since as a result the subject was introduced in school and media all over the world. The Autocomplete Truth campaign results exceed every expectation. It created headlines around the world, including in news outlets, magazines and websites like BBC, CNN, Time, The Huffington Post, The Guardian, Mashable, BuzzFeed, Le Figaro, Metro Sweden, Times of India, and Elle. Overall, it was mentioned in the media close to 600 times. In addition, it was featured in leading TV and radio shows and was even present in 2013 NASCAR races. Also, the campaign was positively educational and created some genuine mindfulness for on women. It turned into the most shared promotion of 2013 on Adweek and Social Good campaign of 2013. How public relations is practiced in the host country. Due to this commercial is mainly aimed at women in the United Arab Emirates and surrounding regions, the message that we are want to lift the campaign to the public had to be global, since the culture of women is very marked. Intersectionally has been difficult to show in worldwide social issues, and the United Nations Autocomplete Truth series attempt to tackle intersectionality. Specifically, UN Women has tried to emphasize the claim that gender inequality and sexism is a global issue, rather than specific to one nation. Since they use four culturally and racially significant types of women, they depict the message that all women are being discriminated against and that bigotry is not geographically biased. Likewise, the way public relations is practiced represents the global issue of sexist stereotypes targeting women, to encourage young women worldwide who care about their social status precisely to continue their fight for gender equality. Circuit of Culture Regulation. UN Women had to adapt its campaign, considering that the places where they released the campaign, there are many countries where women cultures must follow certain culture parameters and rules. Production. This campaign used the image of four faces of women of various cultures. They named the campaign in English. However, in the video, some people speak different language such as Spanish, saying concepts that refers to women need to, women cannot, women shouldn't, and women should. Representation. This campaign is for all women, creating empathy in the audience. Young women who are passionate about ending these discriminations towards women. The main message of the Autocomplete Truth was to demonstrate that all of which that self-proclaimed women strive to be, especially those who believe in family independence and seek worldwide gender equality. Consumption. User engagement with the campaign that generated UN Women that saw the campaign through social media, driving men and women to debate the topic on social media, TV talk shows, radio stations, blogs, peer summits, and in classrooms worldwide, through the campaign hashtag #WomenShould. Identity. The audience identifies with the video that showed the problem that exists today with the prevalence of sexism and discrimination against women, creating empathy in the audience. UN Women was able to make large amount of emotions in millions of people worldwide.
Look at the evaluation of the campaign. The first thing we're going to look at are the reactions it received. Overall, based on the analysis of this campaign and by the numbers it produced, the reaction becomes tangible by looking at the campaign's virality. It clearly and effectively pointed out what the problem was, got the audience to start talking about it, and even engage with the hashtag #WomenShould. It also received 2 awards. The awards were the most shared ad of 2013 by Adweek and the Social Good campaign of 2013 by Ad Council, and it was extremely well received internationally. Moving on to the critiques. There's only really one true critique found with this campaign. The creators of the campaign did not edit what any of the autocomplete results said, but they did select the most impactful and polarizing results to show on the campaign. This is the only critique found with the campaign, which is valid because they may not have been the most searched results that were shown, but they did come through as being the most important and impactful. So that can be kind of shown
as editing what the actual results of the campaign could have been. Any recommendations that came through would be running the campaign on more visible platforms such as public transportation or billboards outside of the UAE. This campaign was primarily run through social media and online platforms. So while it did receive extra exposure by being published in various news articles, those who did not have access to the internet via a cell phone or computer are not able to engage with this campaign, which results in a lower reach to the audience. Looking at the output objective, both objectives were met. The campaign sparked a worldwide conversation about the negative sentiments against women, ranging from stereotypes to denial of rights. Many of these conversations took various forms, ranging from open debates between men and women on Twitter to headlining major news stations such as CNN. With around 1.2 billion global impressions, the campaign effectively communicated its message and got the world to start rethinking gender equality. In doing this, they successfully achieved the output and impact objectives. So for the evaluation for output objectives, the first objective was to create a video and a series of ads to generate views for the campaign with the target audience members. The results: a promotional video was released on November 18th, 2013, and was followed up with another video released May 28th, 2014. The second objective was to start a conversation on Twitter and increase use of the hashtag #WomenShould. The second result was the campaign reached over 1.2 billion global impressions with over 224 million Twitter impressions. And then for the impact objectives, for informational, it was to increase global awareness of the prevalence of widespread gender inequality; attitudinal, to change the common perception of what women should be doing; behavioral, to increase the use of the hashtag #WomenShould and to start a conversation about women's rights. The three of these were kind of summed up in this quote I found off the campaign's website. It says, "More than just mass media coverage in every continent, and that's showing the variety of coverage it received from across the world through the BBC, The Guardian, The Huffington Post, the India Times, and the Metro of Sweden, and many more. It drove men and women to debate the topic on social media, TV shows, PR summits, classrooms," which kind of hits the behavioral impact objective. And then it looks at transforming established media channels into one collective forum for debate on gender inequality. With a few simple facts, our integrated campaign made people rethink the state of gender inequality today and help put back the topic on the global agenda, which focuses on attitudinal, looking to change common perception of what women should be doing. Just to recap, the Autocomplete Truth campaign looked to challenge the prevalence of sexism and discrimination against women. That was revealed by looking at the Google search autocomplete feature and start a conversation of change using the hashtag #WomenShould. And then for the conclusion, we're going to just look at what can be learned. So what contributed to the campaign's success, why pushing the cultural boundaries really helped the success of this campaign, and the importance of a good hashtag. So this campaign was a success due to its relevance to a sensitive subject and its memorable presentation. In the UAE, suppression of women's rights is more profound than other countries, but that doesn't mean that it isn't prevalent in other countries as well. It started the conversation about a sensitive subject worldwide. The campaign's presentation was the other reason it was so successful. It made a powerful statement that showed how women were silenced in the world today by placing the Google search bar over their mouths. Addressing a subject such as women's rights and discrimination against women is a sensitive subject, but in some areas, such as the Middle East, this is pushing cultural norms. For a campaign to be successful while promoting a message that is not widely accepted in a specific geographic area is not an easy task. The Autocomplete campaign was able to do that through its simple, inclusive presentation that didn't just look to one culture. This campaign's international reach can also be attributed to its extremely effective and impactful use of the hashtag #WomenShould. The hashtag allowed the audience to actively engage with the ads. The more engagement, the more the ad was brought to the people's attention. The hashtag also allows the audience to look up anything related to the campaign more effectively than just trying to Google the campaign on its own. This also resulted in many other ads campaigns since having used this model to help them succeed. And then these are our sources.